mistake number 2, which is not knowing how much does it really cost to go China direct. Everyone wants the China price in terms of the low cost for a unit of XYZ product. But a lot of new buyers forget that when you go China direct, you're cutting out a level of former intermediaries and service providers, your distributors, your customs brokers, the people that were supplying you in the past. When you cut them out and go direct, now you have to do all the work and absorb some of the costs. In theory, it should allow you to get a better price, but you need to, when you're setting up your business model, it's important you remember things like, hey, now you're responsible for shipping and logistics, that's obvious. Most of you have probably calculated that. But what about quality control? Who's going to take care of replacement parts? What if there are problems? So as a rule of thumb, most professional managers spend, maybe 10% is a little bit high, but somewhere 5 and 10% of your bill of material price would be dedicated to some type of auditing or inspection. Luckily, these services, as Camilo will mention later, are not expensive, but you need to build that into your model. Also, a lot of people are forgetting about exchange rate changes. It was so nice back when the US dollar and the Chinese RMB were linked. For many years when I started my business, it was 8.2. Now it's down to 6.2 for every $1 US. So the RMB has gotten a lot stronger. And the Chinese government regulates how strong or weak the Chinese currency can get in a one-day period. But if you're asking your supplier to hold a price for 1 year, for example, they're going to calculate what is the worst cost, what is the worst case scenario, how strong could the RMB be in the future, and then when they give you a quote, they factor that in. So when you're talking about the cost of buying in China, you also need to examine the associated risks with currency. It's a little bit outside of this presentation, but more and more buyers are actually locking in the price in RMB and paying in RMB. So another big potential expense is emergency visits to China. If this is your first production run in China, the first time dealing in a new product with a new supplier, more likely than not, there are going to be hiccups. Hopefully you catch the hiccups sooner rather than later, but often it means flying to China. So if you're a small buyer and you're ordering 1,000 units, your markup is only a few $1,000s or something, one flight to China could eat all of your margins. So plan into your business model that you might need to make a couple trips to China. The airfare is expensive, but once you're in the mainland, at least food and accommodations are very affordable. Hopefully you won't have to make these emergency trips, but plan ahead. Also, think about how do you handle claims? Claim meaning that if you're unhappy with your supplier's product or your clients are unhappy with yours. The root cause is often a defect at the factory or problems in shipping that damage the goods, but you also need to build in some cushion for rejects and returns. So often in the West, the customer can return the product to you even if it doesn't really have a defect. No questions asked return policy. If you have something like that, you need to build a little cushion so that a handful of returns don't put you out of business. Also, if you're small and you don't have the ability to go direct to the factory because of the minimum order quantity issues, then you might be dealing with an agent, and that agent will probably want to be paid in some way. So if you're not planning to manage the supply chain on your own, you need to build into your budget a few points to have support staff. We're going to go through all the top 10 mistakes, and at the end we'll have plenty of time for question and answer, so hold your questions.